Two cops, pepper spray, and assault an Army lieutenant who happens to be black. This is a coffee break.
Speeds are 18. It was changing lanes. Approaching Church Street intersection.
Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window. Get out of the car now.
Get out of the car!
Now.
Get out of the car!
Now. What's going on? You fixing to ride the lightning, son?
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out. Get out.
Get out of the car!
Get out now.
Sir!
Get out of the car now.
Sir! Hey, sir!
Get out of the car now.
Sir, look.
I'm trying to talk
Get out.
to you.
Okay.
I'm trying to
I'm gonna talk to
Get
you.
out.
Just get out of my
Relax.
car.
Can you please
Get out.
relax? Can
Get
you
out.
please relax?
Get out of the car right now. Now.
This is not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're gonna treat me.
Back up, Daniel.
I didn't do anything.
Back up.
Whoa, hold on.
Daniel.
What's going? Hold on.
A04 OC just deployed.
Get out of the car. Seatbelt off.
Look, my hands are out.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
My hands are out.
Don't reach in there, Daniel. Don't reach in there.
My hands are out. Please. Please, look. This is really messed up. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car.
Talk to me about what's
Yes, sir.
going on.
You're not.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? Why?
You're not cooperating. Get on the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? Fucked up. Can you open up the window for my dog? I hear him choking. Can you open up the window, please?
Yes. Yes, we will.
Stand up, okay?
Okay, that doesn't get any easier to watch. I did a video on this 2 days ago, I think. And I was editing it. And I was a little bit emotional. And I just wrote it off, everything I saw in the video, as just racism. But then I started thinking about it and thinking about it. And it just occurred to me that there was something missing about my assessment of what happened. You ever been wrong about something, but you didn't know why you was wrong about it? Well, I did some deep thinking. Thinking about all my interaction with cops. And they, for the most part, they've been pretty positive, but the two most visceral ones I've ever had, the most threatening ones I've ever had, I realized this is what was going on in this video as well. There was a stop when I was a younger guy. I think I was in my 20s, maybe younger. I was with some friends in this little city called Malden, that's outside of Greenville. The guy driving the car I was in, he had slammed the door on his jacket. So he stopped the car at the stoplight, and then he opened up the door to take his jacket out, right? So a cop was nearby. He saw the guy's dome light go on, because when you open the door, the dome light goes on. He figured we were hiding something because he just assumed we had saw him or whatever. I'm talking about the cop. And these cops stop us, and this is the first time I've had. They literally had us do all that stuff you see in movies. They had the guns out. They told us to do the little walk back with our hands on. I think I had to put my hands on my head, and they did the whole thing. Made us feel like we could get shot at any moment. And it turned out fine. Nothing happened. And they let us go. But that was one incident I could remember vividly, but it happened so long ago. I haven't even thought about that in years. So then there was another incident where I was living in Savannah, Georgia, and I was in this small little town called Tyree Island. And my car had been in the shop for like 3 months. And the reason why is I got in a wreck. I messed up the door. I got a shade tree mechanic Now, a shade tree mechanic, in case you don't understand the South, is some guy that just works on cars in his spare time, maybe in his backyard. It was one of those guys. The only reason you would use a shade tree mechanic is because they're really, really cheap. But the problem is sometimes you have to wait. Now, that's not true with all shade tree mechanics. I had some pretty good ones in California. But this particular guy was actually, I came to find out later that he was actually using my truck for his personal work, which is why I never got my truck back, or it took so long to get my truck back. While my truck was being worked on, or while he was using my truck to do work, my tag expired. So for some reason, I was in Tybee Island. This cop sees that my car doesn't have an updated license plate. I get pulled over. Guy actually took my driver's license. Told me I wouldn't get my driver's license back until I came to court. That's the only time that has ever happened to me. And I was just like, wow. And he was so freaking aggressive. It was actually a black cop too. He was super aggressive. And I got my license back and everything. But I remember that stood out to me because I've never had a cop do that again. And the only thing I can come up with is that in small towns like that, especially a beach town, they're used to having people from other states visit and get tickets. And sometimes they don't show up because they're from out of state. I mean, why would you come back if you can help it when you might be from a state 2 states away, so I guess that's their way of making sure that people show up. That's the only thing I can come up with. I didn't even know that was legal though. So what could I conclude from those 2 instances? Now you might have noticed a similarity between both incidents. They were both in small towns. And I was able to do a little bit more research about the town that's happening. It's called a town called Windsor, Virginia. And I read somewhere that it was only like 7 police officers in this actual jurisdiction. This little town has a population of 2,600 people. So I think that gets to the root of some of the aggressive behavior in one of these officers. The guy who pepper sprays the lieutenant, he was actually the training officer. So even though the younger officer in this incident, and I've seen there's a couple of videos. There's actually like 3 videos of this incident, and I've seen them all. There's a young officer who actually initiates the pullover. He had just graduated from the academy in October. This actually happened in December. Okay, and what happened is this training officer, the big fat guy, he took over the traffic stop because this younger officer hadn't been on the force for long. And the officer that pepper sprays the lieutenant, his name is Joe Gutierrez. A couple things about it. Now, the cops did a bunch of things wrong. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I've seen a lot of these videos on YouTube. First off is that they classified this as a felony stop because the guy didn't stop right away. Problem with that is you can tell in the video I didn't show that the initiating officer, he's driving really slow. You can see the telephone poles going by, and they're going by super slow. So this guy was not driving that fast. If you're eluding police, you're going to be speeding up, not slowing down. The guy actually put on his hazard lights or a turn signal or something. So he was trying to signal to the police that he was going to pull over. He just wanted to do it in a well-lit area. So the first mistake here was to initiate a felony traffic stop. They say they did that because the truck here didn't have plates. It did have plates. They were temporary plates. He had just bought this vehicle, and he had taped the temporary tags in the window. The cops couldn't see it, I guess, because the car has a tint on it. So they made a couple mistakes there, and then when they actually tell him to get out of the video, they give him conflicting demands or orders. They tell him to keep his hands out, and then they tell him to open the door. Now, as someone who's watched so many of these videos, I understand what the police wanted him to do. They wanted him to put his hands out the window and open it from the outside. The problem is his door was still locked. Now, most cars have a auto locking feature where if you go up to like 10 miles per hour, the car automatically locks. So maybe he should have had his door open, but when you tell somebody to put their hands out and then you tell them to open the door, they're not automatically thinking to open it from the outside. This lieutenant was thinking, if I pull these guys are so gun-ho, if I pull my hands back inside to open this door, they might feel that as a threat and actually shoot me, which is not unreasonable knowing we know about what cops have done to black people. And remember, this lieutenant, and I keep saying lieutenant, but his name is Karen Nazario. He's black and Latino, which is, the point here is that the lieutenant does not know why he's being stopped. To him, he's a law-abiding citizen. I'm assuming he wasn't speeding or anything. He knows the plates are in his window, so to him, he's being stopped without justification. And the gun-ho response from these police officers has him scared. I want to bring up another fact because the police chief of this little department in Windsor actually said this case was reviewed back in December because this lieutenant made a complaint back in December. And the video was released to his lawyers, and they actually did a review of this stop, and they concluded that police, let me find how it says it here in the article. So this article is actually from a local newspaper. The police chief, his name is Rodney Dan Riddle. Riddle said he watched his officer's body cam footage of the incident multiple times during the department's internal investigation, which he said began December 8th last year, 3 days after the incident. That investigation ended January 28th, concluding Windsor Police Department policy was not followed. Disciplinary action was taken that same day, but Gutierrez was allowed to keep his job. And the chief goes on to admit that he eventually fired this officer because of the viral video becoming public. And he says that he didn't think he could be effective as a police officer. So point here is they continue to allow him to serve as a police officer all these months. I mean, it happened in December, so look, 4 months since the incident. Part of what's happening in this video is, I think, that aggressiveness that comes with police officers in small jurisdictions and small towns. Like I said, the worst stops I've ever have all happened in small towns. And I think if you look at this guy in the video, he's a small guy. He's short, he's bald, he's fat. I think there's a little bit of a Napoleon complex going on here. And there's something about cops being offended by someone who doesn't seem to do exactly what they say, even if they're giving conflicting orders. The fact that they're not immediately doing everything. This lieutenant gives this guy multiple times to tell him what is going on. He asks him repeatedly, what is going on? Will you tell me what's happening? And the guy keeps saying, no, you're going to do what I say. So he lost an opportunity at several points to de-escalate, even though this police chief in his press conference said that both of these officers did de-escalate. It's not the type of de-escalation that I would say is reasonable. He pointed out that they both holstered their weapons, and they, this first officer, he switched to a taser. And the lawsuit says that when he says that you're about to ride the lightning, son, that was a threat to the lieutenant's life. When I saw the video, my first thought was that he was, referencing his taser, which is what the police chief also says. So I don't know if that holds water, but that depends on whether the lieutenant himself thought that's what the cop was actually suggesting. And you can reasonably assume that that term itself could be interpreted another way. So again, that officer, you know, it would be one thing if he says you're about to get tased, but he doesn't say that. He says you'll ride the lightning, son. So the fact that he left that open to her interpretation, again, is his fault. The only thing I kind of found humorous about this incident, you didn't see very much coverage on the right. Fox News didn't cover it from what I could tell. Breitbart, Red State, none of these right-wing websites was willing to touch this incident because it posed a few problems for them because, first of all, they worship the military. They're bootlickers. But they also like to come down on the side of cops in most instances. Here you got a situation where the cops are stopping somebody in the military. He happens to be black, but it creates this conflict because usually in the right-wing media, they immediately hone in on the victim of any of these situations. And usually, a lot of times these guys don't have clean records, and the right-wing media, they latch on to that as a way to say, hey, look, this guy was a bad dude. Why are you defending him? In this case, this is a freaking Army lieutenant. They don't know how to deal with it. The only site that I really saw that dealt with it was Hot Air. And they gave a very reasonable assessment, and they didn't immediately come down on the side of the officers. In fact, they said a lot of things that made sense. They made some conclusions that I also made. I think this is just a great example of why we need some police reform. I know it's not going to happen because I guarantee you a few weeks from now, we're going to be hearing about another incident. I mean, in fact, there's been 2 other incidents that I can point to this week when this story came out. You know, you probably heard about the kid getting shot in Minnesota. I forget his name, but a cop shot him, thought she was pulling on her taser, or so she says. So, I mean, this stuff is happening more and more and more. And it's just like gun control. It's one of those things that as long as Republicans have the amount of power they have, I just don't see anything changing. And I just hope against hope that I don't have a stop like this. I mean, knock on wood, for the most part, I've had some pretty good interaction with the police. I don't know. I think it's looking more and more like I'm the exception. Or maybe I'm just in the right era. I don't know. But it's getting really scary out there. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with my assessment? I should also mention that the officer in this incident, this Joe Gutierrez, he has been fired. But like I mentioned before, the chief only fired him when the video became viral. That's all I got for today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you are a subscriber, please ring the bell so you know when my next video drops. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.